Hey guys, so I know that I don't officially cover the LCS events anymore as I cannot reliably make time on weekends for them, but I did say that I'll still continue making these top cut breakdown videos, so I'll be going over the most played hand traps and staples in the top 16 deck list from LCS 12 that happened this past weekend. Now if you want to see all of these deck lists, then make sure to check out Luxury Gaming's website listed here, and also go check out Luxury Gaming TV on YouTube to watch some of the feature matches and deck profiles. I'll have the links below. So as you may have seen already, here was the deck breakdown for LCS 12 where there were 252 players, so very solid attendance. The most played decks were Dragon Link and Dogmatika Invoke Shaddolls, but Prank Kids also now creeping up there in terms of representation. Once you got to the top 16, which is the focus for this video, you saw Prank Kids converge really well, but of course still seeing at least some representation from the top decks like Dragon Link, Dogmatika Invoke Shaddolls, Eldritch, and Dinos. Now Dragon Link, piloted by Sebastian Todd, did end up winning the whole event after taking out Christos and his Altergeist, but the fact that Altergeist made it all the way to second place is incredible nonetheless. So let's just get to what you're all here for, but first, to start with the general overview of hand traps, the top 16 deck list played anywhere between 3 to 12 hand traps in the main, with the median of 6. This is lower than the median of 9 hand traps for the last LCS that took place in March using the new ban list. 6 hand traps did seem like the sweet number, although you had decks like Zodiac and the 50 card Buster Blader list that were playing 10 to 12 hand traps. In the side, the top list played anywhere between 0 to 6 hand traps, and because there were many lists with 6 hand traps, that ended up being the median as well. As for the Backrow hate cards, the trend continues with a median of 0 cards in the main, really just mostly played in the side, but even then, anywhere between 0 to 6 cards dedicated to Backrow removal were played with a median of 4.5 cards, which is slightly lower than the last LCS as well. So let's just cover the top 10 hand traps and staples as usual, and starting with hand traps, Ashe was the most popular of all, being seen in every list. Now Nibiru was still popular but not as much as before, and actually most decks were not main decking it as 3 lists mained it while 8 sided it instead. Artifact Lancia was bound to see strong play as well due to the Dino matchup, as well as the card having at least some utility against other decks like Dragon Link and Bird Up, but again the card was more so played in the side. Droll and Lockbird surprisingly saw more play in the main than the side if it was played at all, with it being a great card against Dragon Link, but can also be useful versus Dogmatika Invoke decks as well. Now Phantasme was something that saw some play in the top cut of the last LCS, and looks like that trend is continuing and if anything has increased, with 5 lists main decking the card and 2 at least siding it. Certainly great against Dragon Link since you can draw 4 and put back 3, but that targeting protection is also useful against Dragon Maid Tidying too. Now that the top deck is not Virtual World that, never Link summoned, it really does have good utility against a lot of decks right now. Next we have Impermanence that perhaps is slowly starting to see some play again. Very versatile hand trap that practically disappeared in play prior to this current ban list, since it was really bad versus Virtual World and all of the Eldritch decks. I mean, I personally love Imperm, so it's good to see this getting some play again, even in the topping list. Now all of the hand traps on this page still did not see too much play, such as Skullmeister, Veiler, and DD Crow. One notable thing though is the lack of play of Gamma, which is generally at least in the top 3 most played hand traps whenever I do these kind of analysis. Perhaps it will bounce back again for the next LCS since these are also influenced by the type of decks that make the top cut. As for the most played staples, now to clarify whenever I do these, what I mean by staples, I am really more so referring to cards that typically see side deck play, if not sometimes mained, so these lists won't include generic staples like all of the pots or Foolish Burial or stuff like that. Now the most popular staple for this top cut was Cosmic Cyclone, with all 16 of the lists actually playing this card. It's been the most popular Backrow hate card recently, actually, and even more so than Harpy's Feather Duster, and you will also shortly find that Red Reboot was not in the top 10 list this time around, although of course Red Reboot is more so played in decks like an OTK, so the play for that among the top 16 really is dependent on which decks make top cut. We do have Pankratops seeing some strong play as well, being seen in 11 lists, and 4 lists actually main decking it, with 1 obvious in Dinos, but a Zodiac list and a couple of Prank Kids lists played it as well in the main. Dark Ruler No More also saw strong play in the top 16, a lot more than Forbidden Droplet. Now that VFD is gone, this card has been rising in popularity to combat boards that Dragon Link put up, but also against something like Bird Up, which could come useful as well. I already mentioned Feather Duster, but Called by the Grave also seeing good play as usual, and typically you see at least some decks siding it, but this time around all 7 lists that played it had it in the main. Next we do have Ice Dragon's Prison, which of course is one of the best traps in the game at the moment, and very expensive for a reason, and being seen in 7 of the 16 lists. Also seen in 7 lists is Triple Tactics Talents, which is a card that is popular in Dragon Link, Dogmatica Invoked, and also Prank Kids. Really helps to just dig for extra cards after you get hand trapped, but if you already had what you needed, getting rid of a card in your opponent's hand is always pretty busted. Then we do have 6 lists that played Imperial Order, which was basically played in all of the control decks in the top 16, other than Dogmatica Invoke Shaddoll list. Honestly, even with the errata, I think this card is a little bit too strong, but that's a conversation for another day. We did see a good amount of Solemn Judgment as well, with 6 lists playing it, with its other Solemn partner in Solemn Strike being seen in 3 lists. Now for the final spot, there were actually 4 different cards that were played in 5 of the 16 lists. One of them is Alpha, the Master of Beasts, which saw 0 play last format because it was very bad against VFT and Virtual World, and you also would not have even been able to summon it versus Drytron and their Vanity's Ruler. But now, this card does have some good utility, especially against a deck like Dragon Link, since it can take care of 2 interruptions on its own. It was seen in 3 Prank Kids lists as well as a Zodiac and of course Bird Up, considering their typing. Other cards that were played in 5 of the 16 lists included some more Backrow hate like Lightning Storm and Twin Twisters, but also there can be only one, which seems to be a staple among the Prank Kids lists. Alright guys, so that was it for the analytical breakdown of LCS 12. Hope you found that useful. Make sure to subscribe for more analytical content if that is your thing. Take care guys.